Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day to learn about UVM's End of Life Doula Professional Certificate Program. We're super excited to have you here with us. And Francesca, who is our program director, is joining us. We're all social distancing and working from home. And so we are in various different parts around Vermont today. And so we'll go over just quick introductions. And Francesca can tell us a little bit more about her background. And then we really dive into more of the details about End of Life Doula and what that means and the certificate program, what the course is like, what it means to be in an online course, how the flow goes for an online course, all the great questions that we get a lot. And then we also want to share a few quotes from some of our students and wanted to share a new course that actually just kicked off this past week, I think, right, Francesca? Last week, April 1st, or was it the 6th? The doula, the animal doula. Are you not hearing me, Francesca?
Okay, good. It was glitching on me for a minute there, so I'm not sure if I heard the tail end, so I know what you were asking, and I might need to just stop my webcam if it's not doing well out here in rural Vermont.
I
But yes,
know.
we just started pet loss, and so Mod 2 opened this morning. We're 1 week in,
Fantastic. We
and
look
it's
forward to.
going really well. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
awesome. I'm super excited to hear about that. So we'll share information about this new course that, as Francesca mentioned, just got started, and we'll offer that again in the fall. So my name is Nicole Lewillier-Fenton. I work in our continuing and distance education department and have the good fortune of being able to talk with people like Francesca about our programs. Francesca, maybe do you want to just give us a little bit of your background? I know that birthing doula is core to also who you are, but as you've evolved to your role as a doula into end of life doula, can you just give us a quick um, just snapshot of your background? Oh, we might have lost sound with Francesca. Rural Vermont, right? I'm sure many of you have been having challenges all working from home at the same time. So I will continue as best as I can, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from Francesca in a few minutes as well. So Francesca is our program director and our course facilitator. She's also the program director for the companion animal end of life care program that we just talked about, and you can see her credentials here. And she has a wonderful book called Cultivating the Doula Heart that is a part of the course as well. So we're so happy to have Francesca leading the discussion with our students as well in the course. The thing that I wanted to share in this slide is that while Francesca is by far the leader, the guidance for our end of life doula program, there are so many people behind the scenes that help with this program, from guest speakers, as you can see, Dr. Gramling and various different people that come in with special lectures and their information as part of the course. But also, there's a lot of faces on this slide here that are our academic coaches throughout the program. So as the End of Life Doula certificate program has grown so much over the last couple of years, we have had the wonderful fortune of having some of our graduates come back in to support the program from an academic coach perspective. So the photos you're seeing here are the variety of people that help out in this course as well. So I know I
Nicole,
don't.
am I back?
Oh, you are back. There you are. Hi,
Oh,
Francesca.
I moved in my house, so I'm hoping this might work better. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's totally fine. I was just sharing the reason behind all these wonderful pictures of all the folks that are on the doula team. So, Francesca, why
Wonderful.
don't you share with us, because I think this is a common question that we get a lot, and you might be wondering as well at home, thinking about what exactly is an end of life doula. Can you walk us through the definition of that and what we mean by that in our course?
Sure, an end-of-life doula is a non-medical companion, a caregiver who offers emotional, physical, and informational support during times of major life transition. So we know doulas who work on the birthing end, which is where I began as a doula, and then now doulas who work and serve people at the end of their lives as well. So these are some of our offerings that you can see on the slide. We work with people to imagine their most meaningful, comforting journey. And we also assist with life review, looking back, reminiscing, sharing stories, which can sometimes turn into legacy projects. So either written or audio or video sometimes, or scrapbook, or maybe a family cookbook that can be left behind to their loved ones. So it's a wonderful exercise in terms of looking back on one's life, finding meaning, purpose, patterns, maybe areas of even regret and loss and grief. And there's so much healing that can happen at that time if that's what people are interested in. So a doula can hold the hands of people through that journey from generally time of diagnosis through their end of life journey, and then also visit with their loved ones following the death as well. We help with vigil planning, so the time when someone is actively dying and they're no longer communicative, we think ahead. We ask them, who are you? What's meaningful to you? What are your values? How can we honor you even when you can no longer instruct us? And that gives their team the ability to look on that piece of paper or however we built their vigil plan during times of overwhelm, and they can settle themselves back on, okay, these were the goals of this person, and here's what I can do to help fulfill those goals.
Great. Thank you so much for that. As I've mentioned earlier, if you have questions, specific questions as we go through the presentation, please put them in the chat box. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those. And so then how do we teach this? I think is such an interesting thing to consider. And several years now that we have been doing the professional certificate program. So Francesca, just walk us through what are the course objectives and what are we hoping that people are able to do? And I have a few more slides that I can follow you along as we talk about some of these things.
Okay, sure. So, what we look for in the course is that our learners are open to introspection. We ask people to walk the walk with as much authenticity as possible when we're, the majority of us, in good health or fairly good health at the time of taking the course. So, we do our own work in preparation to be able to support others through their work in terms of mortality awareness, in terms of writing letters to loved ones, writing our own obituaries, working through our own advanced care planning. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is really understanding the realm of end of life care thoroughly. So we review, what is hospice care? What does it entail? Who are the team members? What is palliative care? What does that entail? Who are those team members? So that we know the terrain when we enter in, and we won't then duplicate care or step on anyone's toes. And we're really well versed in what's available in our own communities. So one of our assignments that runs through the duration of the course is to gather local resources. So we ask doulas, depending on the topic of each week, to look to their own community and compile a directory list that they can then turn to themselves and share with their clients. We have a variety of topics. We have 8 modules, so 8 major themes, and I think we have a slide about that later. And our course runs from Wednesday to Tuesday night, each module. So it opens up on a Wednesday, and you have that week to complete the work. Most of our assignments are due Sunday nights and Tuesday nights. So it gives you time, your own time, in your own time, whatever works best for your schedule, to review the content. And then the deadlines are Sunday night and Tuesday night, but you can submit it anytime before then. And there's a lot of interactivity within our discussion boards during that time. We also have an open board, so for anyone who has general questions about the program or about any other topics that are related, and journals, which is a private interaction between learners and myself. So for maybe some more tender memories or issues that are surfacing that learners don't feel comfortable sharing with the entire group, it's a private conversation. And we have sections of 25 people for the course, so it's a nice cozy community, and we really get to know each other during the 8 weeks.
Great. Thank you for that quick overview. And we can go into a little bit more of the detail that Francesca was talking about in some of these different slides. And she touched on so many of the different things here that are listed as intended outcomes. Finding the resources for families, developing vigil wishes, appropriate support after a death as well. How do you continue to support the family? And one of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit is cultivating a doula heart. And so I think that is one of the big outcomes of the program as well. And so, what does an online course look like? I'd love to hear in the chat box anybody that this might be your first online course. Be very curious to see if this might be your first time coming into an online course, or maybe you are pretty adept at online courses. And lots of people saying this is the first time. And so great. What a wonderful course for this to be your potential first online course. As Francesca mentioned, it runs every Wednesday through Tuesday. The modules open up on Wednesday morning, and then assignments are due. And it's structured, but it gives you the flexibility to work on the coursework on your own time, as Francesca mentioned. And there are no live sessions. That's a question that we get quite a bit. Do I need to be somewhere at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night for the discussion? And that isn't necessary. There's definitely opportunities to have discussions, as Francesca mentioned, in the chat and discussion boards. And I think that's one of the best ways that the community is built in online courses, and specifically this one. I think there's such rich conversations that happen. And so it's really a unique opportunity for you to learn to do this kind of work. So it looks like many folks have, this will be the first time, or sometimes they've taken a course that maybe isn't quite this involved. So what a really awesome opportunity for you to join into this community. Francesca, you mentioned the modules, and so we have this specific slide up that goes into more detail. Would you just walk us through the flow essentially of the information that we are seeing here as we go on through the 8 weeks of this course?
Sure, these touch on the major themes of each week. And so during the first week, some people are still acclimating to Blackboard, and we'll talk about the orientation program that we offer in a little bit. But some people are still acclimating, and we completely anticipate that, and we're prepped to support new learners, new online learners. So we are introducing themes like what is hospice, what is palliative care, what is a doula, what is the role, what are the tenets of care. And then we begin to offer stories from people that are very touching, very moving, and begin to paint that picture of what end of life can truly entail and all the many facets. Then we move into introducing the grief continuum, which we thread through the rest of the course, but we have 2 modules that are really focused on grief. So this first one is more about the anticipatory grief or preparatory grief or progressionary grief. There are different terms that we use in advance of a major loss. And then understanding the patient experience, which we use the term client as a doula to differentiate ourselves from medical care providers. But in this module, we are really looking at the medical side of end of life and the medical care that's offered and the decision making that's involved, and also the ways that medical care providers can pose questions and have difficult conversations. Then we talk a lot about professional and personal boundaries. And in that mod, we go into our shadow sides. We go into concepts like unconditional positive regard and appropriate and authentic listening, receptive listening. We practice that throughout the week. Then we move toward suffering, really looking at what is suffering on a personalized level and to address the many types of suffering, the many faces of suffering. We give an overview of religious and cultural beliefs and also spirituality. We try to cover some of the lesser known belief systems so that we can give a really interesting array, and also within that mod options about aftercare and burial. We go into green burial, home funerals, information like that, so that doulas are really aware of all of the many options and they can present these ideas to their clients for their consideration. Then in mod 7 we return to grief, and we're talking more about the actual loss and the mourning and bereavement period. And then in mod 8, we're recentering We're filling up our tool bags with a couple more tidbits about comfort care, about healing touch practices, some simple massage techniques that our many experts have offered to the course, and thinking about our own personal vision for doula work moving forward, which for some people could be launching a private practice, hanging a shingle, going through the steps of opening up an actual legal business. And for other people, it's about how do I incorporate these techniques and approaches in the work I'm already doing, whether it's as a doctor, as a nurse, as some sort of therapist, as a spiritual care provider, as a hospice volunteer. So it's really about integration as we wrap things up. And then our bonus module, we actually launch alongside Mod 7. We don't want to give it too soon because we want people to have a good, strong foundation. And the bonus mod is really for people who are considering becoming a private practice doula and helping them get just their first checklists and what they need, get things in order, and a lot of tips and suggestions from people who are in the field.
That's great. Excuse me. Thank you so much for walking us through the different modules. Francesca, I want to pause for a second and get to a few questions that have come in. And I really appreciate this question. Kind of lost it here 1 second. From Tracy, who was asking what are thoughts about healthcare providers taking this course. And I know just from interviewing and sharing the stories from many of our End of Life Doula program graduates that a lot of times it is healthcare workers. Can you speak to that question and then maybe some of the other roles that you see, the variety of different professions that people come into this with?
Sure, we do get quite the variety, which initially was surprising. When we first launched, I had assumed that we would get people who were planning to become private practice doulas and was quickly, was able to see that no, not at all. We always have that population of learners, but really it's across the board. And people come in with so many different goals. We have some veteran end of life medical care providers who come through because maybe they're feeling burnt out, maybe they're feeling exhausted, maybe they want to rekindle their original passion for their work, or perhaps they're curious, they've heard about this new thing and they're just wanting to always learn and expand their knowledge. And then other people who are healthcare providers in one form or another who are transitioning into working with end of life care patients, working in on a hospice team, working in oncology, working in palliative care, and they don't have a lot of training and experience going in. So this is going to help them build up their confidence and their tool bag in order to provide care to this new population of patients.
Hopefully that helps to answer your question, Tracy, and just give some of the other folks listening some perspective as to if this your role and your background, if this might be something you might be interested in, because I do think we see so many different folks coming into this program and really finding a big value out of the experience. Francesca, we have another question here that Natalie and a couple other people have chimed in on as well. Is there an opportunity to be observed and coached in terms of like interning or gaining experience in this field? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, we don't set anything up directly for people, although we have a number of grads and some other programs locally that are considering this avenue, and we will definitely keep our grad pool up to date on anything that we hear. We encourage our grads to work together, to partner, and many of them are building partnerships and they're also building collectives in their communities. So they let other people know about the program and then other people come through. It's much easier to go about this within a team, or at least a partnership is what we've found, because people bring different strengths and gifts and skills. And there are a number of different offerings that a doula might consider for themselves. And we're not all going to be called to advanced care planning. Some of us really want to sit bedside and want to sit vigil, and other people really want to work on the projects. And some people want to record stories, and other people really want to focus on how do I help coordinate some of the care and lift burden from the loved ones. So in terms of meal trains and sending out messages to this person's network. There are so many different ways to interpret this work and to be of service that when you work within a team, you don't have to take it all on. You don't have to do it all. So we've seen this happening a lot with our grads.
There's another great question, and I know we get this one a lot. I think Dorothy is asking, are you accredited for continuing education credits units for social workers? And we have that question a lot. Can you touch on that for us, Francesca?
We do have CEUs available, and I think they're non-specific. So I think that whoever is the professional sort of takes those CEUs back to their own organization or body, is my understanding of it.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I do see more questions coming in, and I know that Kelly on our team is also jumping in there and answering. So thank you, Kelly. We will try to get to as many of those questions as possible. I know that there may be something we don't get to today, and I apologize for that, but Kelly is really great about putting our email address up as well. And so if there's something that we weren't able to answer today or you want more information, please send us an email and we will be able to respond to that. I wanted to share with you in this slide just some perspectives from our former students. I don't know that I need to read each slide because you can certainly do that, but one of the things that I see so often, and I know Francesca hears, is eye-opening and really one of the best courses they've ever taken. And this particular quote that I've heard a lot of times are from healthcare workers because I think it just provides such a renewed passion. And as Francesca was talking about, a lot of our healthcare workers may be feeling a little burnout of palliative care. And so how do they do that? And how does this course help to kind of provide a little more energy and fuel back into the field? I thought this was a great quote from Susan that's on the screen that says, "This class enhanced my nursing skills and will make me a better nurse. It was so educational. I learned so much more than any nursing class I've taken," which, wow, that's a big phrase to say. Francesca, you see so many amazing quotes and stories from our students, and we've had many students go through this program. What does it mean to you to see how much this program touches our students?
Oh, it means so much to me. It's been such a wonderful adventure. I think we all came into this with maybe even no expectations. I put a lot of time and effort and heart into building the course and curating the material and finding just the right subject matter experts who speak in a voice that I know is in alignment with our commitment to compassion. And so to see it brought to life through our learners and grads is phenomenal. It motivates me. It gives me hope for the world. It's so encouraging. And I think, especially now at this time when we're facing such turmoil, and we were wondering how would our learners be able to handle everything that's on their plate right now, including being home, many of them caretaking still, many people working remotely, and juggling the course on top of that. And what we found is that people are looking to this as a place of reprieve. They're finding comfort in our community. They're able to really communicate their grief that we're all feeling. And our doula hearts are in high demand right now. So a lot of people are naturally leaning on those of us who are naturally nurturing. And so we're able to prop one another up and provide support and share ideas at this time. And how do we still remain connected virtually? And it's been really a beautiful evolution to
And you just
witness and to be a part of.
Yeah, and you just touched on so many different pieces of the slide that we're seeing here is the doula heart. And I hear so much from our former graduates about listening and how the focus and ability to listen that they really garnered from this course is helping them so much right now to
Mhm.
be able to listen to people as we're all dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. So let's do a little bit logistics here for a second, and then we'll come back to the good stuff. Here's the program fee and how much it costs and what's due at the time of registration. But I wanted to share with you some super exciting news that right now we do have a 25% discount on the programs. It's one on a select program. So this is one of the programs that we are offering this discount. And that is good. This discount is offered up until August. So if you're signing up for, you're registering for one of the end of life doula courses, and you're registering in that time frame before August 1st, then you will be afforded that discount. And here's the start dates of the next one as well. May 20th through July 14th will be the next session. And Francesca had made mention about the optional orientation. And so, what we have tried to do in the past, and it's worked really great for our students, is the week before. That's when the registration deadline is up. So, the week before the course starts. So, you need to be registered by May 13th. And then there is an optional orientation that happens the week prior to the course starting. And so, that has really helped our folks who this might be their first online course get really comfortable in Blackboard, the online tool that we use, and just ask questions and make a comment in the discussion board and get really comfortable so that they can hit the ground running when the course opens on May 20th. Francesca, did you want to make any comment about the orientation or what kinds of things people might experience during that orientation?
Sure. It's on average, it takes learners about an hour to complete. So it's pretty light and it provides you an opportunity to just sort of poke around Blackboard and get used to it and has some helpful videos and tutorials and your first opportunity to participate on the discussion board. It is not graded, it is not required. It's just a useful offering that we found helps our learners dive right into Mod 1 when the real course opens.
Great. And I know we've had a couple people ask, and thank you, Kelly, for answering, but we do have a limited number of seats as well. So, and the course is offered 5 times a year, but if this is a time that you might want to be doing something like this while you're also working from home remotely or whatever your circumstance may be, we would recommend getting in there and taking advantage of that discount and getting your seat in this next session as it will fill, and we do have a limited capacity.
And
I
just to
wanted
clarify, I don't think I really mentioned, but we have the groups of 25 per cohort. So you're within a community of 25 other learners in general. And we have a coach assigned to each of those groups. And our coaches are amazing. They are graduates of the program. They are so dedicated and they're wonderful. So they assist me with being able to offer this course to more people than we had been able to in the past. So I'm still able to oversee and I'm involved in the journals and in the open board and whenever there's something else that pops up, but our coaches are also helping to support our learners through the discussion boards and with any questions they may have throughout the program.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. I wanted to jump back to questions because Maya, thank you for bumping this question back up. I think you know how they they get down a little bit into the chat box and I might lose one. So Maya, well done on bumping your question up. Maya says, is the in-person experience a requirement of the certificate program prior to completion, or can that be completed advanced afterwards?
Not required. We welcome anyone who has any type of interest in this program to come through. So learners do not need to have been directly providing end of life support to people before coming through the course, although we strongly encourage people to gain some experience afterward if you're planning to become a private practice doula. So many people think about hospice volunteering if they haven't already had professional practice in the field.
4-year-old just came in, so welcome to the interesting times that we're all working in. So I'm going to try to continue and see if I can ask for a little help here. So hang on with me just 1 second.
That's okay. And I can keep talking too. I'm seeing a couple
Ava,
of other
yeah,
questions. I can pop in and answer some questions, Nicole, if you want to scoot out for a second. So I'm seeing some questions about
I'm
starting
okay.
your own
I got
end-of-life
help.
doula business. And yeah, okay, you're back in. I'm seeing a couple of those. We do have our bonus module, which we don't have required assignments for, but it helps people get started in that. I really encourage our graduates to think about working with a volunteer from SCORE, and you can find those offices all over. And so these are experienced business professionals who volunteer their time to help budding entrepreneurs along their way. So I really encourage people to access those types of resources because often when we're called to this kind of work, we're not necessarily going to be experts on all things business related. And we don't need to be. There are so many resources. So that's my suggestion. But also, I want to let people know if you're planning to work as a private practice doula, you're really going to have to anticipate a substantial effort of community education. People don't know what they don't know, and not everyone is familiar with this offering. So you're going to have to get out there and go to your local libraries and ask if you can give a talk, and go to your local places of worship and ask if you can give a talk, your community education programs. There are so many ways that you can get your name out there. I've given talks also at assisted living facilities and other places who have invited me in to say, hey, look, we heard about this. We're curious. What is it? And how might it work within what we're already offering? So anticipate that will, don't want to say necessary, but it's pretty crucial and really beneficial to help get your business up and running in your own community.
In there. I appreciate that. I think I've got a few more minutes without the 4-year-old jumping back in. Let's just talk for a second about the Companion Animal End-of-Life Doula Professional Certificate Program that just started last week. Such an interesting adjunct to our end-of-life doula work. Francesca, can you just give us a quick overview as to what the content is here in this course?
Sure. So we have a 4-week program for people who have not taken the End of Life Doula Professional Certificate, and that's what we just began a week ago. And then we have a 2-week specialization for those who have graduated from our program. And so the first 2 weeks in the 4-week option are really talking about the doula essentials and the components of compassionate care. And then the latter 2 weeks, which everyone goes through, focuses on end of life care for companion animals. And we have a number of subject matter experts that we've included. We have 3 vets. We have a counselor who focuses on grief and has held grief loss groups for pet loss for many years and wrote a book about it. And we also feature a number of doulas who either talk about supporting other people through the end of life journey with their pets or also their own experiences. And we cover hospice care, palliative care, in office, at home. We talk about quality of life and how to assess that. We talk about humane euthanasia versus, in quotes, natural death, which is a bit of a misnomer, and we go into details about that. We focus on how to make it, just as we do in our human doula course, how to make this personalized, meaningful, comforting, as peaceful as possible for those involved, how to support people through them supporting their pet through this journey. And then we talk a lot about grief and anticipatory grief and also bereavement, mourning, children's grief. We talk about ritual, how to celebrate that bond, memorializing our pets, and how to stack your tool bag as a end of life pet doula.
Great. Thank you. That's a lot to pack in to
It
4
is a
weeks and
lot.
to 2 weeks. My goodness. So just some information here, as we stated, this course just started just last week. And so if there are doulas that have already gone through our program and you're interested in the 2-week certificate course, there may still be time to jump into that. You can email us and let us know if you're interested. And then we will be offering the course again in the fall. And so I do see a couple other questions coming in. We've had some questions asked about any books that could be read in advance to prepare, and also a question, maybe you could dovetail these two, approximate cost of materials to purchase for the course as well.
So I wrote a guidebook about, I think it was about 8 months into the course. So because what I was noticing is we cover so much, the course is really comprehensive, and I wanted our doulas to be able to exit the course feeling like they had this text that helps them feel centered and grounded in the doula essentials. So Cultivating the Doula Heart, Essentials of Compassionate Care is that guidebook, and it offers in a very succinct way everything you need to remember. And you can just open it up and look through the topics and quickly access either ideas for a visit or maybe it's your script for a post passage visit. So, tending to the bereaved after many different sections involved there. And it's a $10 guidebook. So, that is a required text. And then we have Final Gifts, which is a book written by hospice nurses and really helps to give you a good view on hospice care and hospice end of life, and also some of the commonalities that we tend to see at end of life that people experience. So, that book you can find anywhere. It's been out for a long time. You can find used copies very readily or new copies.
Great, thank you. And maybe that gave you some ideas of some other books that you could look for in advance as well. Another question here, Kate, thanks again. You're seeing Maya's tip of bumping the question back up. How much of the course focuses on care for loved ones after death? Would this course be valuable for someone who enters a family's life post death?
I think our course certainly doesn't prepare someone to be a grief counselor. And instead, what we ask is our learners could find those grief counselors in the community and know when to suggest that as a resource that would be beneficial when it's out of scope for us. I think that the art of listening and holding space is fairly similar, whether it's an impending loss or a loss that has just occurred. So I do think that it helps prepare people to be witness to suffering and to know what to say and what not to say and how to sit with silence more comfortably. So I do think that will help people be more confident and prepared for both aspects of that journey.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to our folks who are participating today for answering each other's questions. I see that Susan was able to answer Christina's questions. So you're already very doula like today. We've gone over a lot of these questions as well. These are the top questions that students ask in terms of typical week, when the module is open, but we didn't touch quite on how many hours do you anticipate the course will take me each week. Can you touch on that for us, Francesca?
Most of our learners say that on average they spend 8 to 12 hours per week. We have some learners who are, well, the next biggest stat we see is a little more than that. But in terms of the required work, we say on average anticipate 10 hours a week. And then we also offer a lot of for further learning links and resources. So if you have the extra time, you could certainly double that in the week. If you don't have the extra time, you could bookmark those resources and return to it later. And what we've heard is in the course, it's a lot of work. We ask a lot of our learners. It's deep work. It's really meaningful, and our learners feel well supported within our community. And by the end of our 8 weeks, there's a grief that happens. There's loss there. There's loss of that rhythm and routine from the modules opening on Wednesday mornings and of being able to access one another so frequently. And so there's this practice of saying goodbye. And so some of our learners kind of count on those additional resources and readings to help hold them over as they transition through their mourning period after the course ends.
Really great information. Thank you so much. Students do receive a certificate of completion as well at the end of the course. Had a great question in there, I think from Kate, and thank you, Kelly, you also answered that. So what's happening with the discount? I'm going to zip back over because I know a couple people are coming in a little bit delayed. And so we are offering a 25% discount on many of our courses right now, just being very mindful of financial challenges that many of us could be facing. And so we're trying to help where we can. And so offering a discount on any, this particular program for the registration for the May and anything that is open for registration up to the August 1st. And so Kate's question, ideally, we will have the next session open soon, also in addition to the May one, the one that follows after that. And if you register in that time period before August 1st, the discount would still apply. So hopefully that will help everybody, I hope. So just those logistics real quick there again. Course starts May 20th. The registration deadline is the 13th for that optional orientation a week in advance. Where to register, you probably know at this point, learn.uvm.edu. And if there's any other questions that you may have, please send us an email. Let us know if there's something that we can share with you. We will send this recording with the information out afterwards, and we'll remind everybody of that 25% discount and the time frame that is valid up until August 1st. So hopefully we can see many of you in our program coming up in May. Francesca, this is a little bit of a loaded question, but how important is this work, do you think, right now as we are trying to console and reach out to each other digitally and virtually right now? I think doulas and their focus on listening is such a key component to what we're all going through. Have you found that the work that doulas do are so much more in need during what we're dealing with across the world today?
Yes, it's invaluable. And I know personally, I have been continuing my communication with the family that I'm serving through phone check ins, through texts, and still being able to offer them ideas as they face end stage cancer of a family member. And also, the number of emails that I've received from our doula graduates who are either seeking thoughts, prayers, blessings, space to be held for them, ideas, comfort, and also ideas on how to provide their services virtually. It has been astounding, and my inbox has been more full. My phone has been ringing much more, and I'm also working with some of our within our local community, our hospice community, our palliative care community on ideas because there's so much suffering that's occurring right now, especially because of the isolation. And when we imagine, just for example, the isolation of someone mourning who doesn't have access to be able to share their story and talk to someone who's going to listen without judgment and without the inclination to dismiss or belittle or try to bright side what they're saying is what people need more than ever. And so we are working at it from all angles, and I do feel like many of us are being accessed like never before.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I think it's such an important role that doulas play as well. We're going to end there. Thank you, everybody, for amazing questions and answering each other's questions and being supportive today. Thank you to Foster and Eric and Kelly, who are all on the back end helping as well to pull this off. Francesca, thank you. It's always wonderful. I'm sorry we can't see you, but it's wonderful to hear you. Thank
Yes,
you for
thank you
being
for
with
your
us.
patience with my technology and roaming around my house till I could figure out a better spot. I
I,
also wanted to mention one last thing is that if they go on the program website, we have a syllabus that's available on there, so that provides more information and details.
Great. Thank you for that reminder. Really appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody has been going through what you've gone through today, Francesca, with trying to find the best connection in your house. So
Wild
stay
time.
safe. It is. Stay safe, stay healthy, and try to stay positive, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in our next session of End of Life Doula. Have a great afternoon.